So I just wanted to start with a little bit about Tchaikovsky's life. He was born in 1840 and died in 1893, so actually a fairly short life. And he is known as a Westernizer, which means he tried to adopt Western technology and education, and that is evident in his music. He is a Russian composer, but he tried to combine Russian influences and Western influences, as you can see specifically here in Swan Lake, which is a ballet, and obviously ballets are a French genre, and it's actually kind of funny because he's probably the most prominent, or arguably, I guess, the most prominent composer of the 19th century, and some of his ballets, again, specifically Swan Lake, are even more known than some French composers' ballets. So that's just a little a funny story for him. But like I said, he was born in Russia, so he actually went to law school and graduated at 19, and he was planning on like a career in government. But after a couple of years, specifically 4 years in government, he enrolled himself at actually the new St. Petersburg Conservatory. So he studied with composers and, pursued a musical career instead of a governmental career. And he actually was one of the first to graduate there since it was fairly new. And so then right after that, he actually easily found a teaching position at the new Moscow Conservatory. And he was actually there for 12 years. So he pursued a pretty long career there. So even though it sounds like his professional career was pretty set out and he had it together, his personal career was another story. His personal life was a bit of a mess. He was actually pretty troubled by his homosexuality that he felt was coming up, and he was kind of trying to suppress, I guess. And actually, partially because of this, he suffered some deep depression and also attempted suicide more than once. And then because of societal pressures, clearly, he married a woman. And like I said, clearly because of societal pressures, he actually ended up leaving her weeks after the wedding. So that was not his choice, definitely. But he actually, some widow who was very interested by his music, who was actually a pretty wealthy widow, actually ended up basically financially supporting him. And they talked a lot through letters and stuff. But she actually gave him a lot of the support to pursue composing more so. So he was able to, I guess, quit his teaching job because of the support that she gave him. So he devoted himself entirely to composing new music, and he got to travel the world through this. And like I said, devoted himself entirely to music. And it was actually kind of sad, but he died at, some could say, the peak of his career, which was when he conducted the premiere of his Sixth Symphony, which was in October of, like I said, 1893. So specifically during Swan Lake, he was actually receiving a lot of praise. This was in 1875. He was receiving a lot of praise for his piece, Symphony No. 3 in D major. So he was kind of at a high from that. And he also, at the end of 1875, he embarked on a tour of Europe. So he was actually pretty busy and doing a lot of things at this point, along with composing Swan Lake, which was commissioned in spring of 1875 and then finished very quickly. It was finished by April 1876, so a year, and it was first performed a year after that in 1877. So like I said, it was composed pretty quickly in a year, which does show Tchaikovsky's partial excitement and interest in composing it. However, there are some sources that say that he wrote some letters to one of his friends that show it was not only specifically excitement to compose this ballet, but also he was kind of in a rush to finish it so he could move on to his next piece, which he was, I guess, even more excited about, which was an opera. So he began with composing the first three scores of the ballet, probably when he first started in the spring of 1875 and into the summer. And then he continued with the orchestration, which he composed in the fall and winter. And then actually still in the spring of 1876, he was struggling with the instrumentation, but he did get that done by April. So that's a little bit of his biography while composing Swan Lake.